Hey, tennis fans, you are listening to Matchpoint Canada, the official podcast of Tennis Canada. We're also members of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. I'm Ben Lewis, joined alongside Mike McIntyre. And today we are talking with former top 5 player on the WTA. She's currently the host of the Real DNA podcast with some great guests, including Andy Murray, Belinda Bencic, Garbiñe Muguruza, and more. And she's also an entrepreneur who is launching her own Perfume. Daniela Hantuchova, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
It's great to have you back. And Danielle, it seems every time we speak, you've got some new venture that you're launching yourself into. Last time we spoke, you were just starting out as a podcast host. Now you've got the new product coming out as well. Tell us first with the podcast, how have things sort of evolved over your first year doing it? And what have been the big successes and challenges for you there?
Yeah, you're so right. It seems like, I retired for a reason. I retired so that I would have a quiet and relaxing life. But I think the opposite is the truth. But I'm really enjoying it. So going to back to the podcast. Yeah, it's been an amazing season with guests that inspire myself very much. And I think that's the biggest satisfaction I take away from the interviews. Not really interviews. I always say I'm just chatting with my friends. Is that I get to learn so much about how they approach life, how they go about things. So it's been an amazing learning experience for myself. And whenever that happens, I'm hoping, well, if I'm taking so much out of that podcast, I hope that it touches people in one way or the other as well, and it can be inspiring. I do believe big time that we are here to help each other grow and learn, and if I can do that for the people listening, then that's the biggest reward I can get.
Yeah, one of the aspects I think I love about the podcast is, as you said, it's really like real life conversations between tennis players, and many of them I've enjoyed. Garbiñe Muguruza I just listened to the other day, and talking about her summit on Kilimanjaro was unbelievable. You had Ivan Lubicic as well on, which I found interesting, and I felt like you two kind of bonded in the sense that you both felt like you retired at the ideal time. Do you still feel this way? And I guess how important was it for you to sort of dive into new ventures and new work post career?
Well, we felt at the time that there was the ideal kind of the age to retire. We were both 34, and we felt like, this is way past what we are supposed to be doing. We actually felt old. And I remember first time I started on the tour, I told everyone on my team, like, if you see me playing past the age of 30, like, just kick me out of the court. Like, this is embarrassing. And now we see, with these 3 guys out of this planet, and with Serena still around, that, age is really becoming literally just a number in the world of sport. And it has changed big time. But overall, I felt like that was the right time for me. I felt like I was ready for to explore new adventures, and one after another just keeps coming. So definitely, in my case, I almost feel like I've played maybe 2-3 years too long.
That's interesting, because to me 34 seems so young still. So I guess it depends what side of the number you're on, and clearly you chose the right time, because you've transitioned so easily, it seems, and so well into your next phase, your next career. I won't say retirement, because you've got a lot of working years left, of course. As Ben mentioned, you've had such a strong lineup of guests on the podcast, and he and I were talking about this before you joined us on the line. It really speaks to the relationships you must have made during your time on the tour. Some players really stay in their bubble and don't engage socially as much perhaps with their peers, and you clearly have made those connections. Who's someone that you haven't yet had on the podcast that you'd really be excited to land as a future guest from the tennis world?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, obviously there are so many amazing personalities in our game, but I think we must also not forget it's a lot about the people behind the scenes, and for those maybe I have even more respect. The tournament directors. I talked a couple of weeks ago to Craig Tiley, and he had all the pressure of the world on his shoulders, and how they go about dealing with those situations. Another tournament director, Guy Forget, the same thing. So I think those kind of people I maybe respect even more, because as a player you don't realize what goes on behind the scenes. And there are so many involved. So I mean, if I would have to reach all the people I want to have on the show, I think it's going to take years, because that's how rich I think the field of tennis world is, and that's why I feel so privileged to be part of it, first as a player and now from the other side as well.
Craig Tiley is a good segue just to kind of the first portion of our tennis season, and the Australian Open, of course, in the books. We're down with one Grand Slam and 3 more to go. You're still an avid tennis fan yourself. Just wanted to get your thoughts on what we saw from our first Grand Slam, a great win from Naomi Osaka, and of course another title from Novak Djokovic.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it from purely as a fan of the sport, it was amazing just to see people in the crowd, and just having more of a real atmosphere, because last tournament I commentated on was the ATP finals in London, and that was just so sad because we were the only broadcast on site in the O2 arena that was completely empty. So just being able to feel the energy from people watching, I think that was already a victory on its own. And Novak proved once again that when it really matters, he just pushes the gears to another planet. He was obviously struggling big time going through the tournament, but then that's where these 3 guys are so different to anyone I've ever seen playing tennis, that on the biggest occasions they just become twice as good as the players, and they have this ability that no one else has. And that's why, to me, all 3 are going to be the greatest we ever had in the history of our sport, and it's a privilege to be able to watch them. And Naomi just keeps confirming what an incredible tough young lady she has become off the court. And I think that braveness she carries around, at the same time humbleness, even though she's as we all know a huge superstar of our game, that helps her to play the way she has.
The Australian Open. Oh, sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Oh, I was just wanted to follow up just in terms of one superstar we love to talk about on this podcast, and our listeners are always eager to see her play, is Bianca Andreescu. And for you, I know, of course, you had a long career, and through those stretches of longevity, you're going to deal with injuries. You had a few serious ones in the past. From your perspective, I guess, during your playing career, what was the most challenging aspect when you were first returning to the court after that long layoff? Is it sort of kind of doubts in your mind about, can I play the same way, or is sort of anxiety about that, or just a fear that you're going to re-injure yourself if you do something wrong?
Well, there are a few aspects, and having to go through a few injuries. Luckily, I didn't have as many, given how long I was on the tour. I didn't think it was that bad, just more towards the end. But say the first 3/4 of my career, I think I did pretty well, managing to always do the rehab, always be as fit as I can, so to prevent all the injuries. But coming back, it's the toughest, I would say, is the toughest task for any athlete, to especially being on the level as Bianca was. The expectations are superb high, no matter how long you've been away from the game. I think the biggest key there is to literally, and it's very hard to do, but to forget everything you've done in the past, to kind of accept that you are starting from zero, and that that US Open title didn't happen. I know it's hard, but I think it helps to keep staying in the present moment, not having too much of an expectation, and just to do what she did before she got to the title. So it's almost like going back to the beginning and just having the patience. As far as purely biomechanics, the toughest thing is, even when we are healthy and the body allows you to play the way you want, your brain is still blocking you to do that because you're so afraid of that pain. And that just takes time to get over. So I would say patience and acceptance are the two biggest words to get through situations like that.
The last time, Danny, that I saw you play was at the Tiebreak Tens event in New York City, which I think was almost about 3 years ago now.
Wow.
That wasn't too long after you had retired, so you looked pretty competitive out there. When we last spoke, you said you didn't miss life on the tour really at all, and that you were, transitioning so well into this next phase. Do you still feel like we won't be seeing you back in a doubles or mixed doubles capacity one day? I just want to see a year later if that sort of has changed, if your stance has changed, and how much tennis do you play these days, even just for fun?
Oh gosh, that's a good one, because I keep hearing this from many different directions, many different proposals for doubles, mixed doubles. So I'm like, what's happening here? And I have to say, sometimes when I commentate, I'm like, I wonder, maybe I should be out there. But no, nothing has changed. Even more so, I play less than before. I miss it less than before. It's just, it's been incredibly wonderful part of my life. Well, I wouldn't say part of my life. It's been my life. But doing what I'm doing now gives me just as much fulfillment. I would not be able to now, talk to you guys sitting in my home. I would be somewhere between Doha and Miami or whatever. And yes, playing the match, I would do that tomorrow. There's no question about it. But all of the rest of it, and not being able to have the base and be near my family and my friends, no chance. Mm-mm.
I feel that'll probably answer part of my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. You seem so comfortable with the commentating, and obviously that's a skill set that you have. Has coaching ever crossed your mind? Have you ever been approached by perhaps a younger Slovakian player, or anyone for that matter, and given that any consideration?
Yeah, I've been approached, but again, knowing what it takes, coaching on the tour, no way. I mean, if I have to do that, then I would be playing. That's for sure. And I don't know if I can make a difference and give what I want to give if it's just a part-time. Now, more of a consulting and mentoring and being there, just like we are chatting now, and giving directions, advices, maybe mentally and off the court, or doing a few weeks in an academy or a few weeks with a player, but not traveling. And if I know it could help, I'm open to that. But I would have to believe that I'm not doing it just for I don't know what reason, that it would really help the player. But I would say more like on the mentoring part. I think I would really enjoy that, because having the experience inside me, it would be a shame not to share it with someone that could benefit from that.
It's easy to ask players questions, I think, when they're in the midst of their careers, and then when they're post-career, I kind of like to look back and think of my fond memories of them. And when I think of you as a player, I think of 3-set matches, and you were you were dubbed the queen of 3-setters, and for good reason. And the record in 3-setters is phenomenal: 181 wins, 82 losses. Did you play matches trying to get into 3 sets? And also, just what about your game do you think allowed you to have a lot of success in those longer matches?
It's so funny. We talked about it 2 days ago on the golf course, because I'm the same there. The longer we play, the better I start, I start to hit them. So I'm kind of using the same technique, tactic in golf as well. So yes, I guess it's the idea of my life. The longer, the better. I don't know. I honestly, it's not something I'm trying to do on a purpose. I would say my physical endurance, it's been always very strong. So I think for that matter, I always went into the matches actually with that mind set up, that no matter how long we have to be on the court, the longer we are there, it's going to be in my favor. So I think because of that, I was able to win quite a lot of those 3-set matches. But was that my initial goal? No, for sure not. And my family didn't like that either, or my team, to having to watch so many of them. So yeah, it's funny how it just transferred to other sports as well.
That's hilarious.
Daniela, as if you weren't busy enough in retirement between your tennis commentating and the podcast, Let's talk about the new venture that you're starting in launching your own perfume. What can you share with our listeners about this? Is this a perfume for heading out for a nice evening? Is it when you step off the tennis court? Tell us what the focus is with this product.
Thank you. Well, it's been a quite amazing journey, and yes, it's today is the day that it just came out, and it really confirms that when we keep our eyes and heart open, the life brings us things that we don't really expect. I met with this guy on a train from Prague to Bratislava, and he said his friend in Florence has this perfumery shop, and he feels like we should connect. And here we are. I'm looking at my perfumes. I'm like, how, it's just divine how things work in life sometimes. And yes, it's a very exclusive fragrance. I wouldn't say it's something you wear as soon as you step off the court. It's more of special occasions because it's a very strong scent. It took us 4 months to develop it, but honestly, when Sileno gave it to me for the first time to try it, I started to cry right away because the emotion was so strong, because it literally captures all of my life in a bottle. It captures the scent of my first wooden racket and the memories of my grandmother teaching me how to play tennis, all the way to the victories in Indian Wells. But at the same time, it captures a lot of tears, sadness, being alone. So that's why I call it DNA, because it's the full spectrum of my life and of my emotions. And I think the most important message here, especially for the young people out there, with the social media, everyone thinks that, things just come easy to us and suddenly the victories appear or the perfume just sits on the table without putting the hours and the work in. And basically, this is kind of to showcase that behind everything, behind every product, behind every victory, there is a lot of sacrifices and a lot of hard work to be able to put things together.
Wow, I really love the way you just explained that. It sounds like a real passion project for you. So best of luck with that as it launches. We're going to wrap things up with you here, but not before we put you through some grueling rapid fire, quick,
Let's go for it.
short answer questions here. So here we go. The first one is, which guest that you've had on your podcast made you the most nervous, perhaps, about interviewing them?
Ooh. Honestly, I never get nervous because they're my friends.
That's the difference, Ben. We need to get more of our friends on the podcast, I guess.
I know.
Right?
Well, I thought you were friends with Andy Murray, but Daniela is, we need those connections.
But we are at the end of the day, we are all friends. We are all the same. So I'm like,
yeah, that's
even
true.
if it's, I don't know why to get nervous to talk to someone.
Yeah, that's a good point. A guest I suppose you'd most like to bring on your show.
In the future?
Yeah, in the future.
Oh, good one. Okay, well, if I can go for it, Barack Obama.
Oh, I like
Nice. Yeah, why restrict it to just tennis?
that.
Yeah.
What's the best thing about being Slovakian, or that you would want people to know about Slovakia?
Oh, good one. Well, everyone says that the Slovakian girls are the prettiest, so I guess it's good to be part of that. No, just kidding. The quality of life, it's very, very good here. Everything's quite simple, and the quality of friendships. Maybe we take a longer to open up, but then once we do, whoever friend it is, it becomes almost like a part of our family. So I think we care a lot about people. So that's a beautiful quality I feel we've got. And then our nature is just so beautiful. The mountains where I was born. So I think the quality of life and friendships and relationships and our mountains.
I know you're not making a return, but the thing you miss the most about being on tour?
Definitely those few seconds after a match you win that you wouldn't really expect, or after a shot you make that you don't even know how you did it, is those few seconds of adrenaline that I know no matter what I do in life, that's just never gonna happen again. And I think that took the longest to kind of accept.
Who's the opponent that you miss facing the most, because maybe you just played really well and matched up well against them? And who's the opponent you miss facing the least on the tour?
I actually thought about it the other day because it's the time of Indian Wells now coming up. So definitely Martina Hingis. For some reason, she always brought the best out of me, whether it was winning or losing against her. But I felt like we got into such a rhythm during the match that I think she was able to play her best tennis. I was able to play my best tennis. I think it became more of a chess game. So I really enjoyed all of our matches together. And the least, well, for sure, Patty Schnitter. I mean, we played like 50 times together, and I think most of my 3-set matches are from those matches. So definitely Patty, I'm not missing at all.
Favorite place in the world that you've visited?
Cape Town.
That was quick. You're getting good at this rapid fire. Okay, last one. If you hadn't devoted your life to tennis, what type of career would you have wanted to try?
I don't really think about that too much because I know my life was meant to be tennis. Maybe agency, whether with tennis or other sports, because I love organizing things, managing things, being in charge. Yeah, probably a sport agency.
And last one for me, an athlete that you would most like to meet in real life that you haven't had a chance to meet.
To be?
An athlete you would like to meet the most.
To meet.
Yes.
Oof, good one. These are supposed to be quick answers, right?
It's tough questions.
Oh. Well, I've been very blessed that I got to meet some amazing ones. I think I've met him. I think Roger.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we don't have to go too far. I know he's a super special human being. So I think. Wait, I have to think someone else outside.
We're going to edit this later to make it sound like your answers were right away. Don't worry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Gosh. Roger or Steffi, I've met them both. So outside other sport, I've met them. I've met him. Yeah, I'll stick with tennis.
I love it. I want this problem one day that I've met every athlete I want to meet.
Yeah. No kidding.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for joining us again on Match Point Canada. It's been great chatting with you. It's wonderful to see someone who leaves the sport but just loves it so much that they want to stay so connected to it. And if only everyone could feel that way about their respective careers. So all the best to you with the Perfume, with the podcast, and we look forward to having you back again down the road.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me, and good luck with the podcast as well.